November 17th, and we are happy to be with you again, Amita. And you were going to talk to us a bit about education and the school. So let us begin with that.
Mother used to follow in great detail once the school was inaugurated in 1943. Mother used to receive, I've got my mother's report book. Mother used to receive the report books from all the teachers, and she used to go through them, and after going through them, she would, she would sign and,
Oh, look at that.
you know, the class started with 10 students. A short prose piece from the text was read and explained. You know, things like that would be told. This is my mother teaching Bengali.
Oh.
So mother would sign at the end of the report. And
that was for all the teachers.
all the teachers. She used to go through all the teachers. There weren't too many. We were just 30 or 35 students, some children. Pranabda used to take up health and hygiene with us. And he, because mother was foreseeing his work and position as a physical education director, so mother asked him to go through a few books. And he used to read out to us. He used to read out to us, and we would take, at his dictation, we would write down. And I have one such left with me, where mother has signed at the end. Health and Hygiene, 1947. We had a botany class with Shunelda, you know, musician. He used to take up our botany class, and he had a very strange idea of asking us to do in detail the study of the plant and the flower. And I had taken notes. This is my handwriting of those days. I was just 11 or 12 years old. But then he...
Now, you say it was a strange idea.
Yes, of asking us to pick up any plant from the street or from a garden and study it and tell him what class, what group, what class it belonged to try and find out from the plant we have studied. But before that, we had studied other things, and perhaps it would be nice to to take this page maybe, where he says a short discussion.
A short discussion.
He has said a short discussion of the vegetative life of the plant would complete your essay. But afterwards, mother had seen,
Oh,
I told you about the study of wild plants.
yes.
So I was always late in submitting my homework. So I had no time to draw or press a part. So mother had said, next time don't forget any specimen.
Ah,
Here in the comment she has
I
written
see,
in
yes.
French.
did mother come to the school often?
Not too often. She had first visited the classes when she had, when the inauguration took place. Then Norman Dowsett, started a dramatics class. And he made us do modern authors play in blank verse. I did the Cloak. It was called The Cloak, and there was the yet to be reborn soul, the one who was leaving the body, and I forget the third character. So I asked him, why have you given me the unborn spirit? So he said, because you are yet to be born to this place. And mother came to see our play, that play. At that time she had come to the school. We had no stage or anything. There was the teacher's platform, and there were two doors on either side. We used it for entrance and exit. There were only 3 characters, and mother was sitting on one of the benches of the students. And after seeing the play, she said, it is well done, but it doesn't happen like that to the soul when it leaves the body. And then she had a long talk with Norman. I don't know what exactly she had. It doesn't actually happen like that. And but they had done well. And then we continued our classes. So at that time she had come to the classroom which we used for our classes, and she was sitting on the bench.
Did you teach dramatics? And
I
did
taught dramatics much later. My first experience in teaching was for arithmetic. Pavitra, as director, did not have enough teachers, so he asked some of us, the top grade students, who I was only 12 or 13 maybe, to take some arithmetic class, and from a French book. We did mathematics and science in French, history and geography in English. So I had to take up the class, and
how old were you?
12.
Oh,
And the children were 7, 8. For the drawing also it was like that. And the drawing, I told you what happened for, mother told me how to teach them to go from one point to another, and the boy said I can go in another way.
right.
I told you that
Yes, you
about
told
it.
us that.
So here for arithmetic, I found we had to teach in French. So the arithmetic book in French had much oral work to be done before starting the written work. I found it a little boring for myself. So I said, what's the use of doing all this oral work first? Much later I understood that as we were doing in French, it was very important, When I took up primary classes, I did follow the same pattern. The pattern for arithmetic that I had followed was first to learn counting in French. They had to learn counting in French. They knew in English and in their mother tongue. And we did a few problems, and in French system, they demand written sentence to introduce your calculation. I bought a box full of mangoes or apples, and each mango or every 12, a dozen of mangoes cost this much, so in total. So you had to write the gist of what you are putting down in numbers. So when I took up the children for the class, they were about 7 or 8 year olds, and I told them, you have to write this, and it has to be logical sequence. And I was very young, but some of them grasped it very well. And much later, as I told you, I understood that I ought to have done also the numbers. And we used to play a game with the younger children afterwards in my primary class or lower secondary class, to count by tens first, 10, 20, 30, 40, and then I'd say first number 4. So 14, 24, they had to go on 34. So it had to be quick, and they used to enjoy it and not understand that it was a quick mental calculation that was being taught at the same time. So,
what was so different about the education in the school?
What I wanted to say to begin with is that we were students when we were chosen as teachers, and Aurobindo had said it will be good. They will be able to follow the system their teachers are taking, the method in which their teachers are teaching, and evolve their own way of teaching. So they will be our first teachers of our school. So when Aurobindo had said that, and as I had heard him having said that, I straight away, though I was very young, I read his System of National Education very carefully. And he had explained there the method of comparison and contrast. I think I spoke of it the other day. We took a flower. He has given the definition of a flower, the example of a flower. And I also took a flower, but we had done first a preliminary with the primary classes. Can you compare a pencil to a book? No. Can you compare a notebook to a ruler, a scale? No. So the things have to have a certain similarity of quality. 2 flowers, 2 trees, 2 leaves, you can compare. 2 books, you can compare the contents. So that is how I started my children's class of botany, with comparison and contrast. And we had done the progress flower, the periwinkle of Madagascar, progress flower. We had done the hibiscus, because there were many colors.
Yes.
So, and we had done also the psychological perfection, I think. And the discovery with the progress flower was they would ask questions. Their discovery was the fruit. What are these two things at the base of the... So when I told them it's the fruit, they were just... For them, fruits mean you can eat.
Right.
So these are some things which you were used for comparison and contrast. And afterwards, much later, I had asked if we can use the same method for poems or stories and all. And I was allowed to try, and I had tried Wordsworth's Daffodils and Herrick's Daffodils. Herrick has a poem in quatrains, and Wordsworth, we all know, I wandered lonely as a cloud. So after we did the two poems, these were 12-year age groups. I was about 20 at that time. I asked them, which poem did you like better? All of them liked Wordsworth's poem, except one child. I like Herrick's better. Why did you like Herrick's better? It is short. It is shorter. So we have had very strange, I have strange recollections about Aurobindo.
When, in later years, did you take up the flower significances?
I didn't take up the flower significances, but when with young children of 9 to 11, we had to do a few flowers, about 5 or 10 flowers which they saw around. I had told them that this is the common name, this is the name of the scientists, and this is the name, its true name, I called it, because significance was too difficult to word.
Yeah.
So I had started in a rather peculiar way. I said, what is your name? Before taking this up, my name is this. And I said, does your mind and nature correspond to your name? So he said, no. So I said, you see, we take names, we are given names which suit ourselves. Our parents think it is all right, and it doesn't always correspond to. But the flower has a name by which it is known. Then, as I said, there's the scientist's name, and there is the mother's name, which is the true name of the flower. So that's how we did a few flowers, and they were quite receptive. They knew what they wanted to do, what they wanted to ask.
When you grew older, did you teach older students? Or did you remain teaching the 9, 10, 11-year-olds?
No, this is how it happened. I used to teach in the higher secondary, that is age group 12, 13, 14, like that, English and French literature in the higher course for the older students. For French literature, I had the clear indication from the mother, because all French books, the textbooks that we used, are from France. And the French children are taught, even in the lower secondary classes, something about their medieval French literature, stories of medieval times in modern French. So mother thought that it was not necessary for our children. So she asked Tanmay, and I assisted, I helped Tanmay also, to choose texts from French authors which show a true vision of life and there is an aspiration. So she had said, you will find such texts not only in the best authors, but even in the secondary, not so well-known authors whose books have been published in French. So we had done a very thorough work, and I was assisting him. At that time we didn't have any Xerox copy, so they used to type on the paper to cyclostyle, you know, and have copies for, yes, and have copies for the classes. And I was the one who used to keep them in order. This is for lower secondary class F5, F6, this is for F7, F8, this is for F for French, 9th and 10th year, you know, as to keep the cyclostyle text like that. And we used to keep in the open cupboard, so whenever a teacher would need, they would pick it up from there and leave a note, I've taken so many copies. So that's what the arrangement was. Afterwards, we wanted to make a whole booklet out of it, because all our teachers were involved. Teachers of younger classes had chosen texts, middle, secondary, others had chosen texts. But unfortunately, I don't think it has been done. I don't know where the texts are. I'm sure some of the teachers are still using maybe some of them, but on the whole it is lost. For the top grade of the college level, higher course level, when I told Mother you said for French teaching, pas de littérature, no literature. You know, in French, littérature means little extra wording also. You know, you are using extra words. But actually what she meant, nothing in the sequence of medieval and 16th, 17th century, the way we treat literature for the college level. So I said, Mother, you have said pas de littérature. What does it mean? Do we take up in for the older students literature? So Mother said, of course. If a child chooses after age 14 to study literature, then no nonsense about it. You have to go thoroughly. And so it was made clear. Of course, we took it a little bit in our way, not exactly as it was done, or it is done in the French system, because we had Aurobindo guidance for the course of English poetry. So I told Mother I would like to follow that idea a little bit, and the different schools of literature in French, I used to say, luckily they changed almost at the end of the century, so it was easy for me to remember.
What are some of the authors in French that you especially found illuminating, revealing something of a higher or inner consciousness?
Aurobindo has spoken of Victor Hugo, and he has said that only Victor Hugo and Arnold, I think, wasn't it, have thought of looking at literature from the point of view of development of consciousness. That which Aurobindo had has spoken of in future poetry, that medieval poetry in all modern literatures start with something like an epic. So I based on that, and in French literature, you have two or three types of sequential stories of medieval times. One is well known to everyone, King Arthur and his knights. So that is a French, also of French origin. But there is one which is called a symbolic story, which is called Roman de la Rose, the story of a rose. And it was written by the Christian priests of that time, and they meant that to get to the true rose, you have to travel through different difficulties. So it is a little bit like the purity of the soul that is required to get to the who is it? The pure knight who brought back the
Percival.
Percival. So it was a very interesting work from all the teachers of French, and from literature point of view, we took it in terms of what Aurobindo had written in the future poetry, and medieval French literature, and Renaissance French literature, which was very important because at that time started the practice of writing in prose. Before that, whatever had to be written in prose and records used to be written in Latin. But from the Renaissance times, with Montaigne and Du Bellay, the name escapes my. Du Bellay and Ronsard were for the sonnets that they started also around that time. But Rabelais and Du Bellay. Rabelais is supposed to have been the initiator of stories in French prose, and his most important work is that he has spoken of it in the form of a teacher and a student, as if a teacher is explaining to a student the life of the people around. So he had that, and then at the end of the prose writings, at the end of the century, we have the essayist, Montaigne. The word essay in English is derived from Montaigne's title of his own writings, which in French means attempts. So his attempt is to describe himself. First he describes his own physical features. I'm not too tall and I'm like this and I'm like that. But afterwards he speaks about his friend, he speaks about the things that he sees around him, and as he was mayor of Paris, or Bordeaux I think, mayor, he had much to say about the French social life. Those are the two prosaists of the 16th century who are very important. And among the poets of the 16th century, we have in French Ronsard and Du Bellay. Both had lots of, made great contribution to poetry. Both had written many sonnets. sonnets, were introduced in Italy by Dante and I forget who else. Um, and in France, that style was picked up by Ronsard and Dubélé. And some of their poems are really very beautiful. We made selections of them for our students. And Dubélé in particular speaks of his how shall I put it, regret. He has called it regret, but his disillusionment on going to Rome, because these 16th century authors thought that Roman literature, Rome was the ideal, but when he went to Rome as secretary to his uncle, who was one of the ambassadors from France, he was absolutely disillusioned. And he has a very, very famous sonnet where he says, I am disgusted with this life over here, and I don't believe in pretense, and yet I have to always say, merci is si, and merci is no. Yes, sir. No. So, about court life, he has got some very interesting comments.
Did you go into 19th century and early 20th century literature or poetry?
I went into, we had to, the 17th century classical age with Corneille and Racine and Molière, we had to take. There I will have a short little story about Mother. When Mother used to sit in the playground in front of the map, I think it was Normanda, who had got two or three of his students do in English passage from the Cid in English, I think. I'm not very sure. Mother saw it and was quite disgusted. She came and she told me, look here, I want this old idea of human love to change. So I am encouraging some of these young people to have friends and to move around together, but I don't know, Mother gave them evidently some instructions. So they would be seen together in the streets or in the playground with the mother, but otherwise they lived on their own. And to me, she said, I'm choosing like that because I want to experiment if these people will be able to look upon human relation and human love in a different way. But for the life you have chosen, I had already spoken to the mother about it. After you have finished your studies, much will depend on what you will do, and your friendships will be camaraderie. So,
how beautiful. Well, we have brought a number of things for you to read over the past weeks, and you have also chosen something from Savitri. I wondered if we could conclude today with some of your
my selections, or would you like God's labor? You wanted God's labor?
Whatever you would like. You had one passage from Savitri, and then maybe we could do a God's labor.
Not sure.
That beautiful passage from Savitri you showed me.
No, I have chosen.
Yes. 1954 edition.
Krishna. This is from Book 1, Canto 4 of Aurobindo's epic poem, Savitri. This is our deepest need, to join once more what now is parted, opposite and twain, remote in sovereign spheres that never meet, or fronting like far poles of night and day. We must fill the immense lacuna we have made, re-wed the closed finite's lonely consonant with the open vowels of infinity. A hyphen must connect my matter and mind, the narrow isthmus of the ascending soul. We must renew the secret bond in things. Our hearts recall the lost divine idea, reconstitute the perfect word, unite the Alpha and the Omega in one sound. Then shall the spirit and nature be at one. Two are the ends of the mysterious plan. In the wide, signless ether of the self, in the unchanging silence, wide and mute. May I do those lines again? In the wide, signless ether of the self, in the unchanging silence, white and nude, aloof, resplendent like gold dazzling suns, veiled by the ray no mortal eye can bear. The spirit's free and absolute potencies burn in the solitude of the thoughts of God. This one again is from Book 1, Canto 4. This is a little longer. You had brought this one, I think, The Master of Existence.
Yes, we have.
I didn't read it.
No. Yes, you did read it. You started from the absolute.
I started from
Yes. We could
So
do it,
shall I
God's.
do it?
We could do it. We've done it. You've done it already.
there. So I do need to read it.
How about a God's labor? Can you do it for
Yes,
us?
sure.
Oh, that's wonderful.
God's labor is a very special poem for all of us. I think I spoke about it once to you. Mother had said, only one person can read it. So we have never recited it in our programs. Mother had got it recited and done on one annual day program by 6 girls who had done passages. But they were very young, I'm sure they just did it because Mother had asked them to do.
Who was the one person who could read it, Mother said? Only one person can read it.
Himself.
Himself. Of course. Of course.
But she had read it. She had read it. I have gathered my dreams in a silver air, between the gold and the blue, and wrapped them softly and left them there, my jeweled dreams of you. I had hoped to build a rainbow bridge, marrying the soil to the sky, and so in this dancing planet midge the moods of infinity. But too bright were our heavens, too far away, too frail their ethereal stuff, too splendid and sudden, our light could not stay. The roots were not deep enough. He who would bring the heavens here must descend himself into clay, and the burden of earthly nature bear, and tread the dolorous way. Coercing my godhead, I have come down here on the sordid earth, ignorant, labouring, human grown, twixt the gates of death and birth. I have been digging deep and long, mid a horror of filth and mire, a bed for the golden river's song, a home for the deathless fire. I have laboured and suffered in matter's night to bring the fire to man, but the hate of hell and human spite are my meed since the world began. For man's mind is the dupe of his animal self. Hoping his lusts win, he labours within him I'll take this again. For man's mind is the dupe of his animal self. Hoping its lusts to win, he harbours within him a grisly elf, enamored of sorrow and sin. The grey elf shudders from heaven's flame and from all things glad and pure. Only by pleasure and passion and pain his drama can endure. All around is darkness and strife, for the lamps that men call suns are but halfway gleams on this stumbling life cast by the undying ones. Man lights his little torches of hope that lead to a failing edge. A fragment of truth is his widest scope, and in his pilgrimage. The truth of truths men fear and deny. The light of lights they refuse. To ignorant gods they lift their cry, or a demon altar choose. All that was found must again be sought. Each enemy slain revives. Each battle forever is fought and refought through vistas of fruitless lives. I read it again. All that was found must again be sought. Each enemy slain revives. Each battle forever is fought and refought through vistas of fruitless lives. My gaping wounds are 1,001. and the Titan kings assail, but I cannot rest till my task is done and wrought the eternal will. How they mock and sneer, both devils and men. Thy hope is chimera's head, painting the sky with its fiery stain. Thou shalt fall, and thy work lie dead. Who art thou that babblest of heavenly ease and joy and golden rule to us, who are waifs on inconscient seas and bound to life's iron doom? This earth is ours, a field of night, for our petty flickering fires. How shall it brook the sacred light, or suffer a God's desires? Come, let us slay him and end his course. Then shall our hearts have release in the burden and call of his glory and force, and the curb of his wide white peace. But the God is there in my mortal breast, who wrestles with error and fate, and tramples the road through mire and waste for the nameless immaculate. A voice cried, "Go where none have gone. Dig deeper, deeper yet, till thou reach the grim foundation stone and knock at the keyless gate." I saw that a falsehood was planted deep at the very root of things, where the grease sphinx guards God's riddle sleep on the dragon's outspread wings. I left the surface gods of mind and life's unsatisfied seas, and plunged through the body's alleys blind to the nether mysteries. I have delved through the dumb earth's dreadful heart and heard her black mass bell. I have seen the source whence her agonies part, and the inner reason of hell. Above me, the dragon murmurs moan, and the goblin voices flit. I've pierced the void where thought was born. I've walked in the bottomless pit. On a desperate stair my feet have trod, armored with boundless peace, bringing the fires of the splendor of God into the human abyss. He who I am wars with me still. All veils are breaking now. I have heard his voice and borne his will on my vast, untroubled brow. The gulf twixt the depths and the heights is bridged, and the golden waters pour down the fire mountain, rainbow-ridged, and glimmer from shore to shore. Heaven's fire is lit in the breast of the earth, and the undying suns here burn through a wonder cleft in the bounds of birth, the incarnate spirits yearn like flames to the kingdoms of truth and bliss. Down a gold-red stairway wend the radiant children of paradise, clarioning darkness's end. A little more, and the new life's doors shall be carved in silver light, with its aureate roof and mosaic floors, in a great world bare and bright. I shall leave my dreams in their argent air, for in a raiment of gold and blue there shall move on the earth, embodied and fair, the living truth of you.